If you watch this video, you are going to understand how to build a pollinator garden in any context or a food forest as well. I'm going to take you through this case study. So I'm going to first show you the actual design, the actual maps and layout, and I'm going to then go into detail about what I did step by step. I'm going to break down what I did in this specific context so that you can take those overlying principles and go design a pollinator garden in any context. If you're designing a food forest, which is like a pollinator garden, but instead of a prairie, it's a forest ecosystem. And instead of just supporting pollinators, we're also growing food while also supporting pollinators. A lot of the same principles will apply, although that is more complicated. And that's why people often hire me to do designs for a food forest. So, anyways, let's get into it. Looking at the design, first of all, we have a map. This map is simply of the property and it's broken down into 8 sections for guilds. Each guild that I break down will have exact placement, and each guild is going to be in there twice. Now, this is a client who was on a budget and who wanted a less precise design. I didn't make it super detailed. I just basically gave them the bare minimum information they would need to go plant the food forest. To go plant the pollinator garden. I walked them through the design. I walked them through how they're going to prepare the ground, how to plant the plants, what to do, how to maintain it. So this is just the map that goes along with it. There's also a spreadsheet I included. We're not going to cover that. That basically tells you everything you would need to know about each plant. So I'm going to show you the guild breakdown as well. And then we're going to get into why I put things where they are, why I did the design, how I did it. So each guild just has a species breakdown and a placement of those species within the guild. Now, let's start with the site conditions. I found that the soil was loamy to clay, pretty wet soil, but not terribly waterlogged, still good drainage. I found that it was a very sunny site for a pollinator garden. A very sunny site is amazing. That's what we want to have. And so from there, I went and I found native plants to Minnesota that match those conditions. Now, here's where it really gets interesting. Here's where it gets complicated and where you have to hold so many things, so many factors in your mind at once. Now, what I did with these plants, with this plant selection, is I looked for things that were blooming from spring to fall. Super important in a pollinator garden. You want to have things consistently blooming to support the insects. Now, not only do you just want something blooming evenly throughout the season, you want different colors blooming throughout the season so that the bees and birds can actually see the contrast in the colors. And if you just have a big field of yellow flowers, they're not going to be able to see that. So you want contrast. You also want different types of flowers. Different types of flowers are either going to be good for hummingbirds or bees. They have different, hummingbird, it's got here's the hummingbird and then here's the bee. Different flowers, different beaks and bee mouths. And then you just want the flower that matches up. Although some flowers are good for hummingbirds and bees. So you want hummingbird and bee supporting flowers, different colors, blooming throughout the entire season. And you want them in good contrast relative to each other. You want different plant heights, different plant root patterns so that there's not conflict, so that they can grow synergistically. You want plants that cover the ground, plants that are herbaceous, and shrubs evenly spaced out so that they work synergistically and you don't just have a bunch of shrubs in one area. So the roots grow well together so that the actual aerial space and sunlight they take up works well together as well. So when you're designing a pollinator garden, there's all these factors that you need to consider. And that's why you go and you say, okay, this plant goes here, this plant goes there. But basically, you can take your site conditions, you can take your soil, you can take your sunlight levels, and you can go consider all those things and find native plants because those are going to be well adapted to the climate, generally to the soil, and they're going to be good for the pollinators, good for habitat, good for overall ecology. And then you can go and design for all those things. You might find, okay, I actually have all yellow flowers. I need to mix that up. Actually, all my flowers are the same height. I need to mix that up. So it's a lot of variety, but just having variety in species is not enough. You don't just have variety in species. That's not all there is. There's a variety in so many different things that all need to be considered, and that's where things get complicated. Now, what is a food forest and how is this different? You actually are taking all these principles and applying it to a food forest, but you're also growing food. You need plants that fix nitrogen into the soil, that build minerals, that accumulate organic matter, plants that repel pests, that build habitat for bugs that keep the pest population in balance by eating those pests. And so a food forest is doing everything that a pollinator garden is doing, but even more. That's where it gets complicated, but that's where it gets extremely beautiful, extremely awesome, because you can have all the benefits of a pollinator garden and grow your own food as well in a very low maintenance natural ecosystem. So that's how I did this design. I hope you understand the underlying principles behind this design, what I did. And now, if you want to do a food forest, if you want me to do a pollinator garden or a design for you, go to eternalharvestgardens.com and book a call with me. I look forward to talking with you. At the very least, I'm going to give you a bunch of advice for your specific situation, for your context, how you might want to prepare the ground, where to find good plants in your context, and make sure you get a bunch of value out of this call. But if it is a good fit for me to do either a design or an installation anywhere in the United States or the world, we can talk about that as well. Anyways, eternalharvestgardens.com. Peace.